All right. Yeah, I can start because I have the first item, which is great news that I hit merge this morning on the MR to remove the code review team from the engineering allocation. So that's exciting. So yeah, thank you to everyone who helped with that. Yeah, where our air budgets are green, our infra dev issues are gone for now, on both of those things for now. But we were able to kind of get through our backlog and get things where they need to be. So that was great.
Yeah,
thanks for making us proud.
Yay.
Awesome work, Matt. Did an outstanding job leading the effort and keeping everyone updated in the loop. So it's much appreciated. And thanks to the team as well. I know there was a ton of issues and sort of moving around and ever shifting priorities. So thanks to everyone for being flexible and getting through it. It is merged, so it's not even closing, it is closed. So that MR is merged and done and we're off the list, just to also be
Yes.
about it.
I should say closed, yeah.
Yeah.
Exited, I guess is the word they're using. There we go. Exited it, which involved a lot of uncertainty of what to do. And then I just created an MR and merged it, and it's fine.
Awesome.
Good. So then the question then will be kind of the next steps. There is this proposal around security issues, which is still a proposal as far as I know, but it's there's a lot of discussion and talk about what we're going to do there. So that could be on our near term radar here. I don't know, Kai, if you have any more ideas of if there's next steps or where that stands right now, but
yeah, I think from my side, I'll say, to be clear, it is a proposal, so we should not react to it like it is what's coming next until we've heard otherwise. And what I know about that is that there's a conversation later this week between David and Anoop and Scott and Christopher to, I think, evaluate whether or not this should move forward. So potentially we'll know more by the end of the week or early next week. But for now, it is purely a proposal, which same goes for like the front end piece of other efforts that are being discussed. They're being discussed sort of like in relation to if backend were to be occupied again for a significant period of time, like some front end groups, which I think even we were part of. Like I know, Andre, we struggled to sort of not struggled, but it was certainly like there was more capacity in the milestone than I think we expected there to be capacity in the milestone. And that's only going to continue to get worse for front end unless we start looking well outside of the group and into things that are sort of like exclusively front end only and much larger projects. If this
and they're still valuable. I think it's important to acknowledge that even those contributions outside of the group, they're still valuable for us. For example, the Vue 3 pursuit would benefit code review directly, for example. That's just one example. So it might be, I don't see that, especially because we're hiring an extra engineer, so we might even have overcapacity even more, but I see that as a positive thing. It's just the unfortunate thing is like we have a couple of topics that would like to move forward, but we can't in terms of product, in terms of feature, that kind of thing. That's the only thing. But in terms of like work, yeah, we can totally find reasonable things to work on. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's things in there that we should discuss. We just shouldn't discuss them in the context of being backed into the corner of needing to find the work. I think we need to evaluate their merit sort of against the other work.
True.
Would be the way to appropriately look at that. So yeah, that's all I know. Like I said, I don't know what the outcome will be. So for now, my planning brain is focused on what we're thinking we'll go do if, assuming we've got all our capacity back to do what we want to go do. Which I think brings us to number 3, which is, that is the next thing we want to go do. But we need engineers to look at it, probably particularly on the back end. I think Andre has looked at it before, but particularly we need the back end to go take a look and start getting a handle on what this looks like, so that we can get issues slotted for 14.5.
Yeah. So last time I looked into this, there's a mix of front end and back end issues. The back end work, I think it's light though, but it hasn't been scored. So that would be probably the first step we would need, would be someone to go through that plan and to verify whether that makes sense or not. And what would be the effort for the back end, Matt? And then turning that into issues, I guess.
Yeah, it would be good to have engineering create sort of all of the issues across the board, front end and back end for this, once they're settled on that. I think we were also, I know we had talked about, if we go way back in time to the first time, I think we brought this up, not even a few weeks ago, but when this was originally created, we had talked about, I think engineers had been asking to be more involved in like sort of the planning piece, and sort of getting to validate or see where things were going and making sure that they understood the full scope of things. Because I know that was a concern with reviewers, that that what they built was not necessarily what the product vision aligned with. And so it'd be good to have more than just like one engineer looking at this and breaking it down, making sure that sort of everyone across front end and back end also understands like, where are we going with this? And does that make sense? Or are there concerns about feature functionality even more than like implementation detail?
May I ask if you're considering making this part of the OKR for Q4? Considering. Or is it just something in between?
Probably not. I've it was like a tangent to OKRs. OKRs that are for work that we would do anyway seem weird. Like particularly when it's like a completion goal, like we would just sort of like complete it and then we'd say we achieved our OKR, and then that doesn't necessarily like drive everyone to one objective or anything that's like meaningful in terms of moving the group forward. So probably not. It doesn't feel as critically important as like, and part of the reason I think reliability or like mergeability work and the merge widget were is because they were much more about usability, and sort of aligning with this. And this is certainly makes reviewers more usable, but it's not necessarily critical to like the underlying usability of the platform and how we understand the merge button to work and error messages to be presented and sort of like core foundational things.
Yeah, but it is something that's been in the back of our minds for long enough for us to really want to close it off, regardless of that being an OKR or not. Okay, I understand that. So Matt, do you want to get someone on your team to go through that plan? I can get someone on my team to take a look at it and revalidate that and be in contact. And I think we should aim to have that plan prepared for planning or 14.5 then. I think I mentioned there that we could have a spike, but I feel like at this point, I don't think it needs that much of a spike anymore. Just a couple of, I wouldn't say hours, but a bit of time to go through it again, see if we missed anything, and then just turning that into issues. And then we can start planning. Hopefully we could start planning a couple of issues for 14.5. That would be nice.
Yeah, I can have someone go through and review that plan, make sure we're not missing anything from the back end side.
Okay.
Get some approximate weights and yeah, should be good.
Cool.
Yeah, I think just to be clear, like 14.5 planning mid like this week next time probably has to be locked up based on
yeah, I'm thinking next days.
Yeah, and next week will be Friends and Family Day on the Friday the 15th. True. So we'll lose that day, and I think kickoff therefore fell to Monday the 18th, although I don't see it on the calendar. So just keep that in mind. Like we're probably talking, we've got until about Wednesday of next week at the latest to really think this through.
Cool. So next couple of days would be nice to have some feedback on this. All right, I'll find someone.
Thanks. Next one's an FYI tag. Annabelle and Pedro, I tagged you both in Slack about this as well. This is coming out of the growth team. They're looking at some product analytics tools. So if you want to provide feedback on helping them build a business case, there's a link in that Slack link to a Google form that you can go and fill out. And then Andre and Matt as well, or if any of the engineers also feel interested in this, or they've poked at analytics before and have questions or want to provide feedback, then feel free. And then I think you've got the last one, Annabelle.
Great. Yeah, it's kind of related to that, actually. I'm having trouble figuring out how to create charts and read them in that, but I don't know if it's the chart. I don't think it's Periscope or SciSense or whatever it's called necessarily. I just think it's difficult to find resources to figure out how to read and make these different kind of things. So I linked to the issue where I'm trying to add tracking to all of the different pieces of every merge request widget. And I just talked to Marcel and he pointed me towards a Chrome extension where I can find out which part of each widget is being tracked, just to verify. So do we use Snowplow on the front end, and that is what is being tracked, or what?
That's one of the things. Huh.
One of them.
Yeah, we use Snowplow for like interaction tracking, like button clicks and those, and feature usage. We use a couple of other services for other types of data reporting, but probably the one you're
Okay.
interested in is Snowplow.
So I'm just trying to see if the expand buttons are being tracked or what part of the widget is. So I should be able to figure that out. So I have some open questions on the chart in that issue description, which I think I can answer myself. Other than that, though, as far as I can tell, that issue is ready for implementation. I think, I'm not really sure what the next steps are, is my question. So this might be more specific to Kai, but I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I think two things. One, just to be clear on Snowplow, Snowplow is front end only and GitLab.com only. So it doesn't provide you data out of self-managed instances. So it's not actually, we try not to use it for anything that we're tracking now. This is maybe the better way to say that.
Can self-managed opt into that, or is that completely turned off? I thought that it was off by default, but they could choose to send us data. Maybe not. I could be totally wrong.
That's usage ping is off by default, and they can choose to opt into usage ping. Snowplow does not send to usage ping yet. At one point, there was a proposal. Man, I just have to make this recording private because I don't know what this was supposed to be public or not anymore. At one point, there was a proposal for a usage ping collector to be added that would take Snowplow events and send it into usage ping, and then it would come across in the usage ping payload. I don't think that ever happened. And so Snowplow tracking really only exists for .com. You can, though, track and self-manage, and you can track click events through the Redis counter. So all of the improved Redis counters that have happened work in both self-managed and in .com. And so anything that we've done since I joined the group and implemented, we've done in Redis counters, not in Snowplow. So any of the instrumentation work that Phil had done a few milestones ago was all done in Redis. Intentionally for this reason. He first implemented them in Snowplow, and then we were like, wait a minute, we need these in self-manage, and you've got to go back and do it. So I think that's the piece to be first clear on. So even if you see Snowplow events, that'll only give you .com data. And it'll probably give you really poor .com data because particularly widgets are in, a lot of that stuff is in paid tiers and other things that you won't see usage of out of groups.
So every place that I said that we already have tracking, we might not. It might be Snowplow, not Redis.
It's possible. Depends on what you saw that led you to believe we have tracking. So if it was the MAL charts that are on the MAL dashboard, that's all tracking that we implemented. I think except for the testing group had implemented their widget, and we just used theirs, and theirs was done in Reddit. most everything else, though, I think is probably not instrumented.
I think that everything I put, I mean, I linked to all the charts, so I'll double check if it came from our monthly active user code review dashboard. I know most of them came from there. There's some from the testing group, like you said. And then that's kind of all I have. So we also have like the total clicks column that we're hoping to track all total clicks. Don't know how that's going to happen, but it's empty because we don't have that. And then also, are we able to filter out GitLab team members and bots? Cool.
Welcome to data with GitLab. You can filter .com sort of like out exclusively, but we don't actually know much about .com at all. I guess you could filter. Maybe that's not true. You could build more complicated queries that like exclude our namespace from the usage ping data, but it's not like in the default like snippets that people use to build charts. You'd have to like take one and modify it and add it if we really needed to do that. Next steps is the other thing you asked about. I think we just need to probably build out an issue for this. This probably needs Andre. This will be almost exclusively front end, and Phil's probably, I think, and Thomas, you can correct me. I don't think you did any of the recent tracking work. I think it was all Phil. So Phil can look at it and then sort of come back. We've never instrumented total clicks or anything that's like action based is new for instrumentation for us. Mark had done a couple recently, but we'll have to look at them.
There's an additional context coming up, which is the effort of the working group for the widgets, because this is to track the widgets, correct?
Yeah.
And you're talking about the expansion. So there's a small distinction between merge request widgets that are like the merge widget, the ready to merge widget, and the report widgets that we're calling that in the working group context about like the tests, all of that we'll call report widgets. You're talking about covering everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the expansion bit that you're talking about, I think will be important to have a discussion in the working group before we start implementing all of this so that it's consistent. And basically the good news is that it'll probably be easier to just cover everything or all the report widgets in the same way. So that instead of having to go to like all of the widgets to add tracking code, we probably add tracking code to the core component, and then each widget as it's being rewritten just has to signal that it's going to be using that report, that metrics. My question is, are we okay in waiting for all of the report widgets to be rewritten into this new code base before we get the data, or do we want to get the data tomorrow?
I asked the same thing because I was hoping we could wait. But Kai said it will take a really long time to start getting data, so we should probably do it now. So in that issue, I did create a chart, and it's got it lists every single item that we want to track, and most of it is the expand portion. So when we do rewrite it, we'll always have it on the expand portion. But then some of the report widgets have multiple buttons that we want to add tracking to, and some of them don't have expand buttons, I think. Maybe they all do, I don't know. And then other parts, like let's say your pipeline, I was hoping, I feel like the most common thing you would do with the pipeline widget is maybe hover, or not hover, maybe click on one of the stages to view the job. So if we could add tracking to that somehow too. Anyway, it's all broken out in that issue. I think I've covered every state that could possibly exist.
That's good. That's the hard part, I guess. The following part, then I think, yeah, we can totally start with the other merge request widgets that are not covered by the reports effort. By the time that we get there, we're probably in good shape anyway. So I'll have Phil have a look at it and see if we can break it down into steps that we can take right now.
Yeah, I'd expect it's probably many issues given the overhead of telemetry work, because it requires, aside from implementation, it also requires all the metrics dictionary files to be generated. And it's just sort of like a lot of work if you produce a lot of them at once. Just for like clarity on why sooner rather than later is good. This chart is one that I use to see what's going on. So 13.8 was when we first started any of our mal tracking. We're many months removed from 13.8 at this point, like January, so we're like 10 months away. And of all the instances that send us usage ping data, less than 50% of them are on 13.8 or higher, which means that we still have less than 50% of instances actually giving us data about all of the new things we instrumented. And so that's just like the lead time on any time you instrument is sort of astronomical in terms to start getting like anything meaningful back. It takes, we didn't actually switch over to using the new instrumentation data for like even reporting in product until we had about 6 months worth of data, because it takes so long for it to stabilize. Like if you look at, we didn't get the first reports until March, once we implemented aggregated, and it sort of took until August to look like this number was close to what we had previously seen with other instrumentation. And so that's just why it's so important that like, if we need to instrument things, we do it as soon as we sort of identify those, because it takes forever. And there's no going back in time to like repull data or get it back. And so like you're just sort of stuck from the time it happens.
This actually begs another question, which is, should we be looking into backporting into patch releases, metrics update? Now, it also is a question about how complex is these changes. If they're like a declarative file configuration, it's probably easy to backport. If it's like intertwined with the code, it's probably too much of a change to do in patch releases that we're comfortable with. It might be a discussion that we might want to have, whether we want to, because I'm pretty sure those people in like previous like 5 releases back, they're probably updating for patch releases, not for majors, right? So it's probably a conversation around that we can have in another forum, I guess, but engineering side.
Yeah, if that's probably a great conversation to have with the product intelligence groups. And I think that's also part of the survey above. They want to try and, are there other options that sort of like naturally instrument when you build things versus needing to go and manually add instrumentation, which are.
I know this is being recorded, but are you familiar with KISS metrics, everyone, more or less? A couple of years ago, they launched a product which was exactly that. You would track every click on the page, everything, and then we could retroactively go and find a filter for those actions, which was mind-bogglingly amounts of data being collected. But we were able to backport and not backport, to backfill insights or something. That was interesting. I don't know if we can do that.
Yeah. So
yeah. Okay,
cool. Yeah, if you have Phil take a look, I think that's probably the best next step. And then we'll need to start, working on it. 14, whatever we can. And Annabelle, it may help if we need to break this up. Like if you pick the like thing that is sort of most important first, like if it's the actual merge button widget and everything in there, because I know we've been refactoring all of that anyways. Maybe that's like one we're starting with versus some of the other areas. I know it's hard to tell, but we may have to like pick and choose sort of each area over a period of several milestones.
The original goal and the whole reason this was created was because we were trying to get a better idea of what reviewers and authors of merge requests do like first when they look at a merge request and which widgets they actually interact with. And we got an idea. It's basically merge and pipelines and sometimes security. But that's why I kind of wanted to see at least the expand on all of them. If some of them are never, ever being expanded, then maybe we need to rethink what that widget's doing. Does it need to be a widget? So would it make sense to break it up, like just put it on all the expand portions and that's a good first step of every single widget? Or is that still too big?
That's probably a question for Phil and how much he's comfortable pushing in a single MR. I know and I say that only because Mark had the original long list for the backend when we did everything and it got broken in. I didn't see more than like 6 metrics get added per MR. That seemed to be like the upper limit because every metric comes with I think 3 YAML files that have to be added to the metrics dictionary. So it's the total metric file has to be added, the monthly one and the weekly one. And those are all like auto-generated and filled in content, but like there's rate tests to those and all that has to be validated. They all have to be linked to issues and feature flags and sort of, they're more labor intensive. They're sort of like security releases where they're just developer labor intensive, not necessarily like hard to do.
Annabelle, just so I know we're over time, but just so I understand the prompt correctly. So what I see here on the table are basically like in bold is the widget itself, and then in parentheses is basically the action that we want to track. And some of these might actually be the same button, just different copy, but you want to distinguish the two. And those are the instances or the events that we want to track, the list of things. The column in the middle is the ones that already have a chart. Is that it?
Yeah. So the ones in the middle already have a chart. Sorry, they shouldn't be the same button with different copy.
No?
It should be totally
Different.
different buttons
Okay.
every single time. And some of them are drop-down items, some of them are buttons to open the drop-down item. It's a lot.
Got it. Got it. Okay, no, but there might be some bundles. For example, the merge train button would be, for example, one merge request, like I was saying, to update that in the bundle, right? All right, sounds good. We'll take a look at that, looking to prior to bundle this up into chunks and see what we can do.
Okay,
Well, we
great.
can-
And I'll verify that these all, the ones that I actually filled in are actually correct.
Okay.
I can help if you've
Thanks.
got specific questions. I can help you dig through performance, like the metric dictionary, and try and figure those out as well.
Okay, I do have some highlighted as well. And now I'm not sure if it is snowplow. I know how to check which element it's actually being tracked on, but if it's not, then I don't know how to check. So I've highlighted like the browser performance. Is it the expand widget that's being tracked? I'm assuming it is because that seems to be the standard, but I don't know for sure because we didn't label it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone, and thanks for chatting. Thanks again, Matt, for the engineering allocation. Awesome work to the team there. So pass along my thanks if you chat with them.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.